Great. So thanks for joining us for this video in the series. And today we're going to be zooming in on the shield being that core central part of our Create Flow model. You may have noticed that there's been some iterations and developments since our last video, and this will continue because, of course, it evolves like we do and our leadership does. So today, Gary and I are going to be chatting and sharing with you a bit more about the shield and why it's important and why it's at the heart of the model. So, Gary, tell me a little, perhaps we could just have a chat first of all and talk about how this evolved, the shield, where it came from, why we've spent so much time in terms of really thinking about the language, what's in here and what's not in here.
Yeah, I think it's obviously at the heart of the model. Let me just move the slide over. It's obviously at the heart of the model, and even in our earliest versions of the model that we created a couple of years ago now, central, we first started talking about capacity, and then very quickly introducing safety into that as well. Because what we recognize is that in order to do any type of meaningful work, in our day-to-day, whatever business we're working in, if we don't have safety or capacity in any meaningful way built into our operational approach, then we will not be able to perform. Safety and capacity are at the heart of it all. And part of the evolution that we've had is so you can see here on the left-hand shield, this is our patterns that impede model, and the right-hand shield is the Create Flow model. So you can see in the patterns that impede model, we've got conditional safety and depleted capacity, because what we're saying is that if we're operating from the patterns that impede model, then we've got conditional safety, we've got depleted capacity, and therefore we will be coming from a fixed mindset perspective, probably defensive, and we will be reacting. Whereas in the Create Flow model, we've got unconditional safety, optimized capacity. Therefore, we are better able to be adaptive with our mindset. We're more open and we are proactive. So we're not just waiting for things to happen. We're not reacting in the moment without considering our response or what the situation might be. We are literally moving beyond response into proactivity, and we are far better able to respond to whatever the challenges are that we're currently facing. But just coming back to that central point, Jill, we have to recognize that safety and capacity are impacted for all of us, more so now than ever before in any previous generations of leaders and anyone really working in any business at any level. It's not just for leaders. I think we can safely say that our attentional deficit is real. We have depleted capacity because of a far more complex social structure, business structure than there's ever been before.
Just as human beings, let alone as leaders.
Exactly. The work-life balance narrative doesn't fit modern business.
And I think that's really been quite fundamental in how we've approached the development of this model, hasn't it? That, just recognizing the humanness of this, seeing if we can loosen up on judgment and that kind of inner critic, etc., that that gets in the way for us all. Because in outlining you know, this patterns that impede model, we're not kind of doing that in a way where, you know, this is wrong. It's more a sense of we're all at risk of this. This is our human design, and we can all slip into this. We're all at risk of going there. And it's likely we slip in and out of that in every day.
I absolutely agree with that. I think it's situational. So it's not just a linear process where we're saying if you are here, you need to move to here.
Yeah.
What we're talking about is that it's circumstantial.
We
What
could be
are the
having a bad day.
circumstances? Yes.
You know, we might look back at the end of the day in hindsight and think, oh, you know, if only I'd approached it like this, or only I'd approached it like that. When we're back in a place of safety, when we're back with some fuel in the tank, we can then look back, can't we, say, yeah, that wasn't me at my best. Yeah.
I think two things can be true at once. But what we need to have in our toolkit is the awareness.
That's it.
To be able to understand where we are when we're confronted with challenge.
Yeah. And that awareness of knowing how we get back to being at our best, the bridge, if you like, the way back there, catching ourselves earlier, and then knowing having like the tools that work for us and our unique system to get back to being at our best, and being back more in flow and being adaptive, open, proactive, which enables us to have that clarity of thinking, effective relationships, you know, execute things, create an impact. All of that comes alive when we know how to get back to that. You know, the reality is none of us can be high performing all of the time in every hour of the day, can we?
No.
So I think where our best work has been in Create Flow and the clients we've got, and where we see the benefits of this, is where we're helping people build their own, and teams build their toolkit from a place of awareness into action, getting those kind of approaches into action so that they can self-manage that they know what's going to work to help them get back into a place of openness, to refill the tank, to shift back into being a bit more adaptive and less fixed, you know, because these theories and, you know, the whole kind of aspect of fixed to growth mindset, we can understand it on a cognitive level, can't we, quite easily? And it's like, yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. However, developing the habits, the skills to be able to make those shifts, that's where the real work is. And that's the work I think we love, Gary, isn't it? And what we bring in our Create Flow work. And I think this model just really gives us some language to recognize the importance of that and what is possible. You know, I think what that Create Flow model does is recognizes that when we can shift into this state of being open, adaptive, and proactive, it's amazing what happens then in terms of all of those other areas on the model.
I'm just going to flip back, actually, because while you're talking, I think it's really important to recognize what that looks like in the wider system. And if we look at these models in terms of operational systems, if we're thinking about our operational system in our business, what we're saying in a broader context is that the shield ultimately is protecting the system from the pressure. The pressure is a constant. The pressure is a reality. We are not going to be able to control or remove pressure. That's what I think, where I think a lot of the narrative around leadership is we must try and diffuse, remove, and reduce pressure. You're not going to. The pressure is the reality. What we have to do is accept that there's always going to be pressure. What we need to do is build our toolkit, like you say, that it helps us withstand that pressure and also develop a relationship with the pressure in a way that means that we are able to be proactive and responsive rather than reactive. So when we look at this model here at the moment, the right-hand Create Flow model, this is optimized because the shield is able to withstand the pressure so that we can operate from choice, agency, and innovation. If you look at the line underneath the model there, that's how we're able to respond to pressure. Whereas when we think of the shield on the patterns that impede model, in this model, we might visualize that shield as damaged, impaired. It may be being, it may be hanging together by a thread, and so there are holes in it, and so it's not withstanding the pressure in the same way. It's not protecting the system fully, so that we are able to have optimized performance within, as a system. So our pressure response isn't really a response, it's a reaction. It's the default, stuck, habitual behavioral things that we would always tend to see, and that becomes a cultural issue in businesses. And so we need to understand that we need to look after our shield, and it's important, I think, like before we close out, that we reinforce the point that it just doesn't become a strong and well-preserved shield by itself. We have to be active in maintaining our shield. We might have to repair it first, and then take care of it. That is what resilience looks like. That's what we're talking about. And so we have to make sure that our shield is good enough to help us with our operational performance.
And I think what we generally see and what we know from our experience and where this makes the biggest impact is creating the habits. And as you say, that maintenance piece, just not, we've got to sustain it actively. We've got to be proactive in our sustaining of the shield. And it's the creating the new habits that enable that to happen and reinforce those, get those in place, recognize the difference it's making, keep reinforcing those and celebrating the difference and enjoying, the benefits of this more resilient, responsive, creative way of working and leading. So I'm really excited that we've put this at the heart, and actually I think the conversations we're having really are helping to make this into something very practical as well. And these kind of conversations are happening all the time, and we want to have more of them. So please do keep in contact. Come back to us with any questions after watching the video or any of the videos in the series. There's some QR codes here so that you can have a call with myself or Gary or both of us. And also that you get updated with our blog. But we're also, if you aren't already in our CreateFlow Leaders group in LinkedIn, come and join us, because we're also posting on their events every month. So there's going to be lots of opportunities to join us online. You might even want to come to our in-person events. And we're going to be sharing a lot more in there about the model, and want to have as many conversations and learn about what this looks like in the real world, in your world, and in practice. So do keep in touch, and thanks for watching.
Thank you.